At 7:43 the next morning, Maya Carter walked through the employee entrance of Belmore Market and knew immediately that something was wrong. Her manager was waiting beside her register, not in his office, not near customer service. At lane 6, her lane, Mr. Hayes stood with his arms folded, his tie already tight against his collar, though the store would not open for another 17 minutes. Beside him was the closing supervisor, Denise, and on the counter between them sat a printed receipt. Maya slowed. Mr. Hayes looked at her. "Don't clock in yet." Her stomach dropped. She had heard those words only once before. 3 months earlier, a stock clerk had been caught stealing gift cards. He had been gone before the doors opened. Maya tightened her grip around the strap of her faded handbag. "Is something wrong?" Mr. Hayes tapped the receipt with one finger. Lane 6. Yesterday, 7:38 p.m. Maya looked down. She recognized the total immediately. $43.71. Her own debit card had paid it. Mr. Hayes raised his eyes. "Did you pay for a customer's groceries last night?" For half a second, Maya considered lying. Not because she was ashamed, because she needed the job. Her rent was due in 6 days. Her younger brother's school had sent another reminder about the science trip, and the electric company had stopped using polite words in its messages. But Maya had never been good at lying when someone looked directly at her. "Yes," Denise exhaled softly. Mr. Hayes's expression did not change. Employees aren't supposed to make personal financial transactions for customers while operating a register. She was short. "That isn't what I asked." She was going to leave half the groceries behind. Maya. She needed them. Mr. Hayes stared at her for a moment. Then he asked something she wasn't expecting. "What did the woman say to you?" Maya frowned. "What?" "The woman. What did she say?" The question felt wrong. If this was about store policy, why did that matter? Mr. Hayes pushed the receipt toward her. "Tell me exactly what happened." And that was when Maya realized something else. His anger looked real, but beneath it was something she couldn't understand. His right hand was trembling. The night before, the old woman had been third from last in Maya's line. Maya remembered because by then her feet were aching badly enough that she had begun shifting her weight every few seconds beneath the register. She had been working since 11 that morning. Her lunch had been a packet of crackers and half an apple she saved from breakfast. At 7:30, the store was thinning out. A father carried a sleeping toddler toward the exit. 2 college students argued over which frozen pizza was cheaper. Somewhere near produce, an employee was announcing that Belmore Market would close in 30 minutes. Then the old woman stepped forward. She was small, perhaps in her 70s, with silver hair pinned carefully behind her head. Her coat was old but clean. One of the buttons had been replaced with another that did not match. She placed her groceries on the belt one by one. A loaf of bread, 6 eggs, a small carton of milk, chicken thighs, 2 potatoes, a tin of tea, a bag of rice, 4 apples, a small lemon cake, and a packet containing 2 blue birthday candles. Maya noticed the candles because the woman touched them before setting them down. Not casually, carefully, as though they mattered more than everything else. "Evening," Maya said. The woman gave her a tired smile. "Long day?" Maya glanced down at herself. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who has had a few thousand of them. That made Maya smile. She began scanning. The old woman watched the screen closely as the total climbed. Her smile slowly disappeared. $43.71, Maya said. The woman opened her purse. She removed a small wallet, then another pocket, then checked the first pocket again. Maya had seen the movement before. The quiet panic of someone hoping money would appear simply because they looked a second time. The woman placed a $20 bill on the counter, then a 10, then 5 singles. She searched through coins. $35.80. Her eyes remained on the money. "How much did you say?" $43.71. "Oh, just that. Oh." The word carried more embarrassment than an apology would have. The man behind her looked toward another checkout lane. The old woman began touching the groceries. "Take the tea off." Maya hesitated. "And the chicken. You sure?" Yes? Maya removed them from the transaction. The total dropped. The woman counted again. Still not enough. The apples too. Maya looked at her. The woman avoided her eyes. And the cake. Her hand stopped on the lemon cake. For the first time, Maya noticed that someone had written a tiny number in blue ink on the candle packet. 76. Maya looked at the woman. Birthday? The woman gave a tiny shrug. Someone's. Maya looked at the total. Then at the groceries being pushed aside. The chicken. The apples. The tea. The cake. Nothing luxurious. Nothing unnecessary. Even the cake was barely bigger than Maya's hand. How short are we? The woman straightened. We aren't short. I simply picked up too much. Maya knew that sentence too. Her mother used to say versions of it. I'm not hungry. I ate at work. You take the last piece. It had taken Maya years to realize how many different ways poor people learn to describe not having enough. Maya put the cake back beside the bread, then the chicken, then the apples. The old woman frowned. I said to remove those. I heard you. Maya reached beneath the register and pulled out her wallet. The woman's face changed. No. Maya took out her debit card. No, young lady. It's $8. It is $7.91. Maya blinked. The old woman almost smiled. I may be old, but I can still subtract. Maya laughed. Then the woman pushed the groceries away again. I won't take charity. Something about the way she said it stopped Maya. There was pride there, but not the ugly kind, the wounded kind. Maya lowered her voice. My mother once stood in a grocery line with me when I was 9. The old woman looked at her. Her card wouldn't work. There were people behind us. I remember her putting back my cereal first. The old woman said nothing. I remember wanting the floor to open. Maya looked down at her card. A man behind us paid the difference. Did your mother accept it? No. That surprised the woman. Maya smiled faintly. She argued with him for almost 5 minutes. What happened? He told her something. Maya inserted her card into the machine. He said, then don't call it charity. Call it somebody refusing to let you have a bad day alone. The old woman stared at her. The payment processed. Maya pulled out the receipt. So that's all this is. She placed the receipt inside the grocery bag. One bad day. For several seconds, the old woman did not move. Then she looked at Maya's name tag. Maya. Yes, ma'am. I will come back. You don't have to. That wasn't a question. There was something unexpectedly firm in her voice. Maya smiled. All right. The old woman picked up her bags, then stopped. She looked at the lemon cake. Do you know what the worst thing about getting old is? Maya expected her to say pain, or loneliness, or becoming dependent on strangers. Instead, the woman said quietly, people start believing the things you remember no longer matter. She picked up the cake, then she left. Maya watched her walk toward the automatic doors. She never told anyone she had paid. Not Denise. Not Mr. Hayes. Not even her younger brother, Caleb, when she got home. To Maya, it had been $8. Nothing heroic. Nothing worth discussing. She had spent more than that the week before, replacing a phone charger Caleb swore he had not broken. Besides, she had already forgotten most of the conversation by the time she reached their apartment. Life did not allow Maya much room for remembering strangers. There were dishes in the sink, 2 loads of laundry, a past-due electric bill on the table, and 14-year-old Caleb pretending he was not waiting for her. He sat at the kitchen table with his science permission slip turned face down. Maya noticed. She always noticed. You ate? Yeah. What? Food. Very descriptive. I'm practicing for my autobiography. Maya opened the refrigerator. 1 plastic container sat on the middle shelf. Pasta. Untouched. She looked at him. You waited. Caleb shrugged. I wasn't hungry. Maya nearly laughed. There it was again. The oldest lie in struggling families. She warmed the pasta and divided it between 2 plates. Caleb watched carefully. You gave me more. No, I didn't. You did. Eat your food. He smiled. They ate quietly. Halfway through dinner, Maya turned over the permission slip. Science Discovery Center, Final payment due Friday. $65. Caleb reached over and flipped it face down again. I don't want to go. You have been talking about that trip for 3 weeks. It sounds boring now. Caleb, I said I don't want to go. Maya looked at him. He stared at his plate. She understood. He knew too much about money for a 14-year-old. That was one of Maya's greatest regrets. Children were supposed to know which sneakers they wanted, not which bills were overdue. I'll handle it, she said. Maya. I said I'll handle it. How? She smiled. That is classified adult information. You're 27. Exactly. Ancient. He laughed. And for a little while, $8 at a grocery store disappeared into the much larger mathematics of their life. Till the next morning. Until Mr. Hayes was waiting at lane 6. Before we continue, if stories about ordinary people and the moments that change their lives mean something to you, subscribe to Written Destiny and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. What did she say? Mr. Hayes asked again. Maya stood across from him. She didn't say much. Try. Maya glanced at Denise. The supervisor looked almost as confused as Maya felt. She was short on money. She started putting things back. What things? Why does that matter? Maya. The tea. Chicken. Apples. A cake. Mr. Hayes's eyes changed at the last word. What kind of cake? Maya stared at him. A small one. What kind? Lemon. His hand stopped trembling. Completely. Did she say who it was for? No. Mr. Hayes looked away. Maya remembered something. She had birthday candles. He looked back instantly. What color? Now Maya was certain this was no longer about store policy. Blue. Mr. Hayes closed his eyes for perhaps 1 second, then opened them. Denise shifted uncomfortably. Robert. Maya had worked at Belmore for 11 months. She had never heard anyone call Mr. Hayes by his first name. Can someone please tell me what's happening? Maya asked. Mr. Hayes picked up the receipt. His manager face returned. We have rules for a reason. Maya almost laughed from frustration. Then write me up. Denise looked at her. Maya. No. If that's why I was brought in here, write me up. You can't keep paying for customers. I paid once. That's how things start. How what starts? People taking advantage. Maya stared at him. I wasn't taken advantage of. You don't know that. Neither do you. The words came out sharper than she intended. Silence filled lane 6. Maya immediately regretted them. Not because they were untrue, because overdue bills made courage expensive. Mr. Hayes looked toward the dark windows at the front of the store. Give us a moment. Denise hesitated, then walked away. Mr. Hayes waited until she disappeared behind customer service. His voice changed. Did she give you her name? No. Think. She called me by mine, but that's because of the tag. Maya. She never said her name. His jaw tightened. Did she say where she was going? No. Was anyone waiting outside? I don't know. Did she mention a son? Maya's brow furrowed. Then something returned to her. The candles. The cake. That strange sadness when the old woman said, someone's birthday. She said something about people believing what you remember doesn't matter anymore. Mr. Hayes looked down. That's all? No. Maya searched her memory. Then she remembered the way the woman had looked at the cake. She said, Maya stopped. What? She said her son used to like lemon cake. Mr. Hayes went pale. Not dramatically. The color simply seemed to leave his face. Maya stared. Mr. Hayes? He folded the receipt once. Then again. Small, perfect folds. Clock in. What? Your shift starts in 9 minutes. But this conversation is over. It clearly wasn't. Maya knew it. He knew it. But he turned and walked toward his office. Maya stood alone beside lane 6. And for the first time, she wondered whether the old woman had been short on money by accident. The morning grew busy quickly. By 10, there were lines at every register. At 11:20, Maya scanned milk for a mother holding a crying baby. At noon, She helped an elderly man find the coupon he had accidentally placed inside his wallet. At 12:40, she smiled at a customer while trying not to calculate whether her next paycheck could cover both electricity and Caleb's trip. But several times, she caught Mr. Hayes watching lane 6, not watching her, watching the doors. At 2:10, someone asked Maya to report to his office. She expected the write-up. Instead, the office was empty. Mr. Hayes? No answer. She noticed a folder lying open on his desk. She had no intention of touching it. Then something inside it caught her eye. A photograph. Old. Faded around the edges. It showed what looked like the Belmore Market staff from many years earlier. The uniforms were different. The store sign behind them was the old red and white logo she had seen in photographs in the break room. Maybe 20 employees stood together. Maya would have looked away. Except for the woman in the second row. Silver hair had once been dark. Her face was younger, fuller, but Maya recognized the eyes immediately. The woman from lane 6. Maya stepped closer. She wasn't alone in the photograph. Beside the woman stood a boy of perhaps 12, skinny, serious, holding a small lemon cake while everyone else smiled around him. Someone had written on the bottom of the photograph in blue ink, "Robert's 12th. Mum made us celebrate in the break room." Maya stopped breathing for a moment. The office door opened behind her. She turned. Mr. Hayes stood there. He saw the photograph, then saw her face. Neither of them spoke. Maya slowly pointed toward the younger woman. That was her. Mr. Hayes did not deny it. Wasn't it? His eyes settled on the photograph. When he finally answered, the voice no longer belonged to the strict manager who had been waiting for Maya that morning. It belonged to a son. Yes. Maya looked at the old picture again. The woman who had been $7.91 short. The woman who had bought a lemon cake. The woman who had carried 2 blue candles. Then Maya looked at her manager. "She's your mother." Mr. Hayes swallowed. Yes. Maya waited. A question had already formed. If his mother needed a stranger to help her buy food, why had her own son been standing less than 20 feet away from Maya almost every day? But before Maya could ask, Mr. Hayes spoke. "She hasn't talked to me in 6 years." Maya stared at him. He looked at the lemon cake in the photograph. "Yesterday was my birthday." And suddenly the $8 Maya had spent the night before no longer felt like the beginning of a small story. It felt like she had accidentally stepped into the middle of one that had been waiting 6 years to be finished. Maya looked from the photograph to Mr. Hayes. 6 years. He nodded. The office felt smaller now. Outside, carts rattled across the floor. A register beeped. Someone laughed near produce. Ordinary sounds. But inside the office, something had shifted. Maya placed the photograph carefully back inside the folder. What happened? Mr. Hayes gave a short, humorless laugh. "You work for me, Maya. You don't need my family history. Then why did you ask me what kind of cake she bought?" He looked away. Maya waited. For most of the year she had worked at Belmore Market, Robert Hayes had seemed like a man built entirely out of rules. Schedules were followed. Breaks were timed. Uniform shirts were tucked in. Returns required receipts. Excuses rarely survived longer than 30 seconds in his office. Employees called him difficult. Some called him cold. Maya had never seen him look lost. Until now. "She used to work here," he said. Maya glanced at the photograph. "I figured. 23 years. That's a long time. She started when I was 8. His eyes stayed on the picture. "My father left when I was 10. Maya said nothing. He didn't die. He didn't disappear. He just decided he wanted a different life. Robert's mouth tightened. "My mother worked mornings here and cleaned offices at night. Sometimes I slept in the break room after school because she couldn't afford anyone to watch me." Maya thought of Caleb waiting at the kitchen table. Was that allowed? No. For the first time, Robert almost smiled. She was good at making people ignore rules when she needed them to. That didn't sound like the woman Maya had met. But maybe it did. A woman who would argue over $7.91 probably had a history of refusing to disappear quietly. Robert pulled the photograph toward himself. "She packed my lunches in grocery bags because we couldn't afford lunch boxes. On my birthday she'd bring lemon cake, every year. Especially here." He touched the edge of the picture. She said birthdays mattered more when you didn't have much. Maya could picture it too easily. A tired woman in a store uniform. A boy doing homework beside vending machines. A small cake cut with a plastic knife. What happened 6 years ago? Robert leaned back. The manager returned to his face. Not completely, but enough. My mother made a decision. What decision? One I couldn't forgive. Maya frowned. That tells me nothing. It tells you what you need to know. No, it tells me what you want me to know. He looked at her sharply. Maya almost apologized. Then she remembered the old woman removing apples from the belt. She didn't. Robert closed the folder. My mother sold the house I grew up in. Maya blinked. That's why you stopped speaking? No. He stood. She sold it without telling me. Still not enough. Maya knew it. Robert knew it. She had debts, he continued. A lot of them. What kind? He hesitated. Loans, credit cards, medical bills. Whose medical bills? His expression changed again. Maya, were they hers? That's enough. Were they? Robert pushed the folder into a drawer. She had spent years refusing help. Then one day I found out the house was gone. Maya watched him lock the drawer. She told me she didn't need me. I told her she had spent her whole life turning every problem into a sacrifice nobody asked her to make. The sentence landed harder than he seemed to expect, perhaps because he still remembered saying it. Maya lowered her voice. And then she told me something I'll never forget. What? Robert picked up a pen and placed it perfectly beside a stack of papers. She said, you think because I needed you once, I must need you forever. Maya waited. What did you say? Robert stared at the pen. I told her she was right. Silence. Maya understood now. Not the whole story, but enough to feel the wound. You told her you didn't need her. I was angry. That wasn't what I asked. His jaw tightened. Then, quietly, yes. Maya looked toward the door. And she believed you. Robert didn't answer. That was answer enough. For the rest of the afternoon, Maya could not stop thinking about the old woman. Not because she knew her, because now she knew too much. She knew the lemon cake had not been random. The blue candles had not been random. The old woman had stood in her son's store on his birthday and said nothing. She had been close enough to see him, close enough to call his name, but she had chosen lane 6 instead. By 4 o'clock, Maya started wondering something else. Had Mrs. Hayes come to Belmore hoping Robert would see her, or had she come because she already knew he wouldn't? At 5, Maya's shift ended. She changed shoes in the break room. Her phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. Don't worry about the trip. Seriously. Maya stared at it. Then another message arrived. I told Mr. Daniels I'm not going. Maya called immediately. He declined. She called again. Declined. Teenagers, Denise muttered from the locker beside her. Maya sighed. He cancelled a school trip because he knows I'm broke. Denise paused. You want me to pretend I didn't hear that? You already heard it. I have $60. Maya. No. Denise shook her head. You paid for some stranger's groceries yesterday. That was different. Why? Maya opened her locker. Because it was. Denise raised an eyebrow. Maya stopped. It sounded ridiculous the moment she heard herself. The old woman had refused help because help felt like charity. Maya was doing the same thing. She shut the locker door. Fine. Denise smiled. Fine what? I'll borrow it. You'll let me help. I said borrow. Of course. Maya pointed at her. With interest if necessary. Now you're just being annoying. Maya smiled. But when she walked out of the break room, she noticed Robert standing near the hallway. He had heard enough. She could tell. He said nothing. Neither did she. The next day, the old woman came back. Maya didn't see her at first. It was Denise who whispered, Lane 6. Maya looked up. There she was. Same coat. Same silver hair. Same careful posture. But this time she carried no groceries. She simply stood at the end of Maya's line. Maya's heart began beating faster. Not because of the woman, because Robert was at the front of the store. He had seen her too. Maya watched his body go still. For 1 second, she thought he would walk over. He didn't. He turned toward customer service, then disappeared into the office corridor. The old woman saw him leave. Her face did not change. That was worse. Next, Maya said quietly. Mrs. Hayes stepped forward. I believe I owe you money. You came back. I said I would. She opened her purse. Inside was a small folded envelope. She removed $8, then 75 cents, then a dime, then a nickel, then a penny. Maya looked at the coins. You remembered the exact amount. People should remember what they owe. Maya heard Robert's voice in that sentence somehow. She pushed the money back. No. The woman frowned. We discussed this. You discussed it. You paid for my groceries. And you told me it wasn't charity. I did not. Fine. I told you. That does not make it true. Maya smiled. The old woman almost did too. Then Maya noticed something. There was a small red mark on the woman's wrist. A hospital band had been there recently. The skin beneath it was slightly paler. Are you all right? Mrs. Hayes immediately pulled her sleeve down. Yes. That looked like. I am perfectly well. Maya didn't believe her, but she remembered the rules of dignity. Sometimes asking the same question again was not kindness. It was pressure. So she let it go. Mrs. Hayes placed the money on the counter. Maya covered it with her hand. Can I ask you something? You may ask. Why did you come here yesterday? The woman's eyes sharpened. To buy groceries. You bought a birthday cake. Many stores sell them. Lemon. Mrs. Hayes stared at her. Maya lowered her voice. I know who you are. For the first time, the old woman's composure cracked. Only slightly. But enough. Robert told you. Not exactly. Her eyes moved past Maya, toward the office corridor. He shouldn't have. He barely did. Then you shouldn't ask. You came into his store on his birthday. Mrs. Hayes looked back at Maya. Young people often mistake proximity for invitation. Maya didn't answer. The woman picked up the money. He has a life. I have mine. That sounds lonely. It is not your concern. No. Maya nodded. It isn't. Mrs. Hayes seemed surprised by the lack of argument. Then Maya added, but yesterday you told me people think the things old people remember don't matter anymore. The woman's fingers tightened around the coins. You remembered that? Yes. Why? Because you looked like you meant it. For several seconds, they simply looked at each other. Then Mrs. Hayes took a breath. I came because I wanted to see him. Maya felt something tighten in her chest. Why didn't you talk to him? Because wanting to see someone is not the same as being wanted. He saw you. I know. Maya glanced toward the office. He almost came over. But he didn't. That answer ended something. Maya understood there were wounds too deep for strangers to solve with one good conversation. Mrs. Hayes put the money back in the envelope. Please take this. Maya shook her head. The old woman's voice became softer. Then do something else with it. What? The next time someone is short. Maya looked at her. Use it. The idea made her smile. Mrs. Hayes placed the envelope beside the register. Then perhaps neither of us has to call it charity. And before Maya could answer, she walked away. Maya waited until her break. Then she carried the envelope to Robert's office. He looked at it. What's that? $8. He stopped typing. She came back. I know. You saw her. Yes. You walked away. Robert's expression hardened. This is not your business. I know. Then stop making it your business. Maya put the envelope on his desk. She came to see you. You have no idea why she came. She told me. That got his attention. Robert stood. What did she say? That she wanted to see you. He looked toward the door. Maya could almost see the part of him that wanted to move. To find her. To call someone. Anything. Instead, he sat again. She wants something. Maya stared at him. Maya stared at him. You really believe that? You don't know her. I know she put back chicken because she was $8 short. That proves nothing. She could barely afford her groceries. Robert looked away. Maya continued. And she had a hospital mark on her wrist. His face changed. What? She'd been wearing a hospital band. When? I don't know. What kind? I don't know, Mr. Hayes. He reached for his phone, then stopped himself. Maya watched. Call her. He put the phone down. You think 6 years disappears because she bought a cake? No. Good. I think 6 years gets worse if one of you dies before either of you says what happened. Robert's eyes snapped toward her. Maya knew she had gone too far, but the sentence stayed between them. I'm sorry. Robert did not speak. Maya started toward the door. Then he said, She has a heart condition. Maya turned. I found out 3 years ago. You knew? My aunt told me. And you still didn't call? She asked me not to. Maya frowned. Your aunt? My mother. The room went quiet. She told my aunt not to give me updates, said she didn't want pity mistaken for love. Maya thought of the woman refusing $7.91. It made painful sense. So you both stayed away because neither of you wanted to be the one who needed the other first. Robert looked at her. That's a very simple way to describe something you don't understand. Maybe. Maya opened the door. But simple things can still be true. That evening, Maya got home to find Caleb sitting on the floor beside the couch. Not doing homework. Not watching television. Just sitting. What happened? He handed her an envelope. The school logo was printed across the front. Maya opened it. Inside was a receipt. Science Discovery Center, paid in full. Maya frowned. I didn't pay this. I know. Did Denise? No. How do you know? She called. Maya looked at him. Caleb held up his phone. She said she never sent anything. Maya looked back at the receipt. There was no donor name. Just a note beneath the payment. Every child should get to go somewhere that makes the world feel bigger. Maya read it twice. Who wrote that? Caleb shrugged. I thought you knew. Maya didn't. But she had an idea. The next morning, she went straight to Robert's office. She put the receipt on his desk. Was this you? He read it. No. You didn't pay for Caleb's trip? No. You heard me talking to Denise? I did. And you're telling me this wasn't you? It wasn't. Maya studied his face. He wasn't lying. Then who? Robert looked at the note. Something flickered across his expression. What? Maya leaned forward. You recognize it? No. You do. Maya, you asked me not to lie to you yesterday. I didn't ask you anything yesterday. You know what I mean. Robert held the receipt again. Then he said quietly, My mother used to say that. Maya stared. What? About the world feeling bigger. His voice softened. When I was 12, I wanted to go on a school trip to Washington. He almost smiled. We couldn't afford it. Maya already knew the rest. She paid. Yes. How? Robert's smile vanished. I don't know. And now Maya saw something new. Not anger. Guilt. She never told you. No. So maybe she paid for Caleb's trip. Robert looked at the receipt again. Maya felt something hopeful for the first time. Maybe Mrs. Hayes had seen her problem. Maybe the kindness had simply moved forward. One person to another. $8 becoming 65. A stranger helping another stranger. But Robert shook his head. She doesn't have this kind of money. It's $65. She's struggling. People who are struggling still help. Maya knew that better than anyone. Robert looked unconvinced. And that was when Maya remembered the hospital mark, the groceries, the house, the old debts. A thought appeared. What if she isn't struggling because she has no money? Robert looked up. What? What if she's struggling because she keeps giving it away? He stared at her. Maya, you said she spent her life turning everything into a sacrifice. Yes. What if she never stopped? Robert went very still. And suddenly, for the first time, his version of the past had a crack in it. They found the answer 2 days later. Not from Mrs. Hayes. From someone neither of them expected. A woman named Clara Bennett came to Lane 6 just before closing. She was perhaps 45, dressed in hospital scrubs beneath a winter coat. She waited until Maya finished with the customer ahead. Then she placed one item on the belt, a tin of tea, the same brand Mrs. Hayes had tried to put back. Maya scanned it. $4.29. The woman didn't pay immediately. Are you Maya? Maya's hand stopped. Yes. Clara exhaled. Thank goodness. Do I know you? No. She looked toward the manager's office. But I know Evelyn Hayes. Maya's stomach tightened. Is she okay? Clara hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Maya called Robert. He arrived less than a minute later. When Clara saw him, her face changed. You're Robert. He stopped. Who are you? My name is Clara Bennett. Robert waited. Clara swallowed. Your mother asked me not to come here. Robert's jaw tightened. Then why are you here? Because I think she's wrong. Silence. Clara reached into her coat pocket. She removed a key, a small brass key on a faded blue string. Robert stared at it. What is that? She gave it to me yesterday. Why? Clara looked at Maya, then back at Robert. She said if anything happened to her, I should clear out apartment 3C before the landlord did. Robert's face changed. What happened? She collapsed yesterday morning. Maya covered her mouth. Robert didn't move. Where is she? St. Vincent's. Is she? She's alive. The air left Maya's lungs. Robert reached for his coat. Clara stopped him. There's something you need to know first. No, I need to see my mother. You do. Clara's voice broke slightly. But you need to understand why she was buying that cake. Robert froze. Maya felt the room narrow around them. Clara held out the key. Your mother didn't come to Belmore because she wanted you to forgive her. Robert stared. She came because she thought she was running out of time. He said nothing. Clara continued. She had been saving for 3 months to buy that cake. Robert frowned. That doesn't make sense. No. Clara shook her head. It won't. Not until you see her apartment. Apartment 3C was 20 minutes from the store. Maya never intended to go. Robert asked her. Not with the voice of a manager, with the voice of someone afraid to enter alone. The building was old. 3 floors. No elevator. Paint peeling along the stairwell. When they reached the 3rd floor, Robert stopped outside the door. His hand hovered near the key. I used to hate this color. Maya looked at the faded blue door. You've been here? Once. When? The day she moved in. 6 years ago. The last day. He inserted the key. The apartment was smaller than Maya expected. 1 bedroom. 1 narrow kitchen. A couch with a blanket folded neatly across it. No television. No decoration except a photograph on the wall. Robert at graduation. Maya recognized him immediately, though he was much younger. He stood alone in a dark gown, but someone had written beneath the frame, "My boy made it." Robert stared at the words, then walked farther inside. On the kitchen table sat dozens of envelopes, not mysterious, not dramatic. Ordinary white envelopes, each labeled by year. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026. Robert picked up the oldest. His name was written across the front. He looked at Clara. What are these? I don't know. You've never opened them. They aren't mine. Robert tore one open. Inside was a birthday card. Nothing expensive. Just a simple card. On the inside, Mrs. Hayes had written, Happy 34th birthday, Robert. I hope you ate lemon cake. Robert stopped reading. He opened the next envelope. Another birthday card. Then another. Every year. 6 years of birthdays. 6 years of cards never sent. Maya stepped back. This was not a secret designed to shock anyone. That was what made it hurt. A mother had remembered every year, and chosen silence every year. Robert sat down. He opened the card from the previous year. His hands shook. Why didn't she send these? Clara answered quietly. Because she believed you meant what you said. Robert lowered his head. Maya thought that was the revelation. It wasn't. Clara walked to a drawer beneath the kitchen counter. She opened it. Inside were receipts, hundreds of them, school payments, prescription payments, bus passes, grocery vouchers, utility bills, small amounts, $20, 40, 15, 70. Maya picked one up. It was from Caleb's school. $65, paid 2 days earlier. Robert stared at it. She paid for the trip. Clara nodded. Evelyn helps people. With what money? Robert asked. Clara looked around the apartment, and suddenly Maya understood. No television. Old furniture. Mismatched plates. Worn coat. Groceries being put back. She goes without, Maya whispered. Clara nodded. Robert stood. Why? Clara's expression changed. Because someone did it for her once. He frowned. When? When you were 12. Robert stopped breathing. Clara reached into the drawer and removed one final paper. A photocopy of an old handwritten note. She handed it to him. Robert read. His face emptied. Maya stepped closer. The note said, Evelyn, the Washington trip is paid. Don't argue. Your boy deserves one day where money isn't the reason he stays home. When life becomes kinder to you, do it for somebody else. There was no signature. Robert sat down slowly. For years, he had believed his mother had somehow found the money. Worked another shift. Borrowed it. Sacrificed something. He had never known a stranger had paid. And now, all these years later, Evelyn Hayes was still trying to repay a debt that had never been hers. Robert looked through the receipts again. How long? Clara answered. Almost 30 years. Maya stared at her. What? Sometimes it's groceries, sometimes school fees, bus tickets, prescriptions. Robert looked around the apartment. She sold the house. Clara's eyes filled with something complicated. Yes. He stood. For this? No. The word came too quickly. Robert froze. Clara's expression changed. Now she looked afraid. No, Robert repeated. Then what? Clara looked at Maya, then back at him. Your mother never told you why she sold the house. She said she had debts. Clara closed her eyes. Those weren't her debts. Robert stared at her. Whose were they? Clara didn't answer immediately. Robert stepped closer. Whose debts? Clara's voice lowered. Yours. The room went completely still. Robert looked at her as if he had misunderstood. That's impossible. Clara shook her head. No. I never borrowed money from her. You didn't. Then what are you talking about? Clara reached into the drawer again. She removed a thick envelope. Inside were old hospital statements. Maya could see dates, amounts, a name. Robert Hayes. Robert took the papers. His hands began shaking harder. Then Maya saw the year. 20 years earlier. Robert looked at Clara. What is this? After the accident. Robert's face went pale. What accident? Clara stared at him. The one your mother told you insurance covered. Robert didn't move. And Maya suddenly understood that the 6-year argument over a sold house had never been about a house at all. Robert had spent years believing his mother had ruined her own life through stubbornness. But she had sold the last thing she owned because of something he didn't even know he owed. He looked down at the hospital statements, then at the birthday cards, then at the grocery receipt Maya had paid. His voice broke on one word. Why? Clara answered softly. Because you were her son. Robert looked toward the door. For 6 years, he had waited for his mother to admit she had needed him. Now he had discovered the truth was almost the opposite. She had spent years making sure he never knew how much she had needed to give up for him. He grabbed his coat. Maya followed. Where are you going? He was already moving down the stairs. To the hospital, Clara called after him. Robert. He stopped. She stood at the top of the stairwell. There's something else. He looked up. Clara's hand rested on the doorframe. The doctors told Evelyn she needed surgery 3 months ago. Robert stared. She cancelled it. Why? Clara looked toward the open apartment. At the receipts, the school payments, the birthday cards. Then she said the one thing Robert had no defense against, because she said she couldn't afford both. Robert's face collapsed. Maya felt cold. Both what? She asked. Clara's eyes moved to the $65 school receipt still lying on the table. Her treatment, she swallowed, and the promises she had already made to other people. Robert turned and ran down the stairs. But by the time they reached St. Vincent's Hospital, Evelyn Hayes's bed was empty. And nobody at the nurses' station could tell them where she had gone. Robert reached the nurses' station before Maya did. Evelyn Hayes. The nurse looked up. She was in 417. I know. Her bed is empty. Are you family? I'm her son. The words seemed to surprise him as much as anyone else. Not because they weren't true. Because for 6 years, Robert had lived as though being someone's son was a relationship you could resign from. The nurse checked the computer. She was discharged. Robert stared at her. Discharged? About 40 minutes ago. She collapsed yesterday. I understand. She needs heart surgery. Sir, I can't discuss her medical information without permission. Did she leave alone? The nurse hesitated. I can tell you she refused transport. Robert closed his eyes. Of course she had. Maya caught up behind him. Do you know where she went? The nurse shook her head. Robert was already taking out his phone. He dialed. Maya heard the ringing from where she stood. Once, twice, 3 times. Then voicemail. Robert hung up and tried again. Nothing. He called Clara. No answer. Again. Nothing. His breathing changed. Mr. Hayes. He didn't hear her. Robert. That got him. He looked at Maya. She could be anywhere. No, she doesn't drive anymore. Then she probably isn't anywhere. He frowned. She went somewhere specific. How do you know? Because people like your mother don't leave hospitals for no reason. Maya thought about Evelyn counting coins. Returning $8 exactly. Paying Caleb's school trip before taking care of herself. She had somewhere she thought she needed to be. Robert stared at her. Then his face changed. The community center. What? She volunteers on Saturdays. It's Thursday. No, not volunteering. He was already moving toward the exit. She told Clara she had promises. The St. Matthew Community Center stood behind an old church, 6 streets from Evelyn's apartment. Robert parked crookedly. He didn't care. The front doors were unlocked. Inside, folding tables filled the main hall. Boxes of cereal, rice, soap, canned vegetables, diapers. A handwritten sign read, Family Pantry, Friday Distribution. A man stacking tins looked up. Can I help you? Robert barely slowed. Evelyn Hayes. The man's expression brightened. You're Robert. Robert stopped. It happened again. A stranger knowing him. Not as Mr. Hayes. Not as the store manager. As Evelyn's son. You know me. The man smiled. Only because your mother has been talking about you for 15 years. Robert's face tightened. Where is she? The smile disappeared. She was here. Was? About 20 minutes ago. Maya's heart sank. What was she doing? Dropping off these. The man pointed to 3 grocery bags beneath a table. Inside were tea, rice, pasta, cereal, and soap. Robert stared. She came here from the hospital. I didn't know she'd been in one. He looked worried now. She seemed tired. Where did she go? She said she had one more stop. Robert closed his eyes. Maya looked around. On one of the tables sat a cardboard box filled with envelopes. Each had a family name written on the front. Beside them was a notebook. Maya opened it. A list. 23 families. Small notes beside each. Martin. Bus pass. Jessica. School shoes. MRS. Parker. Prescription. Alvarez family. Milk. Eggs. No amounts larger than $100. Nothing dramatic. Just little gaps in people's lives. Little moments when one missed payment could become a crisis. Robert stepped beside Maya. She did all this. The man behind them answered. For years. Robert slowly turned. With what? Whatever she had. He looked almost angry. Why did nobody stop her? The man didn't take offense. Because we tried. Robert said nothing. The man continued. Evelyn doesn't like being told she has done enough. Maya almost smiled. That sounded familiar. She says there is always someone having a worse week. Robert looked down at the notebook. Maya saw the guilt returning. But guilt wasn't enough anymore. Guilt could become another kind of pride. A way to punish yourself without repairing anything. Where was the last stop? Maya asked. The man thought. She mentioned Jefferson Elementary. Robert looked at Maya. Why would she go to a school? Maya already knew. Caleb's receipt. A school trip. A boy who almost stayed home because $65 was too much. She probably promised another child. They found Evelyn sitting at a bus stop across from Jefferson Elementary. Not collapsed. Not dying. Just sitting. Her coat buttoned to the neck, a paper bag beside her, and in her lap, a pair of new children's shoes. Robert stopped 20 feet away. For all the urgency that had carried him through the hospital, the apartment, the community center, he could not take another step. Maya looked at him. Go. He shook his head. What do I say? Maya almost answered. Then didn't. This wasn't her conversation. You've had 6 years to think of something. Robert looked at his mother. She might tell me to leave. Yes. She might not forgive me. Yes. She might think I only came because she's sick. Yes. Robert looked at Maya. You're not very encouraging. No. Maya's voice softened. But if she leaves that bench before you speak, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering whether she would have stayed. Robert looked back toward Evelyn. Then he walked. Not quickly. Not dramatically. Just one step after another. Evelyn noticed him when he was halfway across the road. Her hands tightened around the shoes. Robert reached the bus stop. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Evelyn looked down. You shouldn't be here. Robert swallowed. You shouldn't be here either. I have somewhere to be. You were in the hospital. So I've been told. Mum. She looked up. The word had done what 6 years could not. Not heal anything. Just make pretending harder. Don't. Why? Because I know why you came. You don't. You heard about my heart. Yes. So now you feel guilty. Yes. The honesty caught her off guard. Robert sat beside her. But that isn't why I stayed. Evelyn's face hardened again. You shouldn't have gone into my apartment. I know. You read those cards. Yes. They weren't yours. They had my name on them. They were never meant to be sent. Why? Evelyn stared across the street. Children were coming out through the school gates. Parents waited near cars and buses. A little girl ran into her father's arms. Evelyn watched them. Because you told me you didn't need me. Robert looked down. I was angry. Angry words still have ears on the other side. He had no answer. For years, Robert had remembered what his mother said that day. You think because I needed you once, I must need you forever. He had replayed it until her pride became the entire story. He had almost forgotten his own words afterward. Almost. I'm sorry. Evelyn's expression barely changed. Robert continued. I'm not asking you to say it's fine. It wasn't. I know. You let 6 years pass. I know. You knew I had heart problems. He looked at her. Yes. And still you didn't call. Robert's eyes filled, but he didn't look away. I told myself I was respecting what you asked. You were. No. He shook his head. I was hiding behind it. Evelyn's face softened by a fraction. I was waiting for you to need me first. She looked at him. Robert laughed once, bitterly. I wanted you to call and say you were sorry. I wanted you to ask for help. I wanted to be right more than I wanted to be your son. Evelyn looked away. And when you never called, he swallowed. I decided it proved I never mattered. That made her turn back. For the first time, pain showed plainly on her face. You foolish boy. Robert almost smiled. I'm 46. You're still foolish. They sat in silence. Then Robert looked at the shoes. Who are those for? Evelyn's hands returned to them. A child. Of course. She's been wearing her brother's shoes. They're 2 sizes too big. Robert closed his eyes. Mum, don't start. You need surgery. I need many things. And you paid for these? They were $24. That's not the point. It is exactly the point. $24 can be the difference between a child being laughed at and a child walking into school without looking at the floor. Robert stared at her. Then quietly, "And what's the difference between you getting treatment and not getting it?" Evelyn looked away. There it was, the question she did not want to answer. Robert continued. "Clara said you cancelled because you couldn't afford everything. She exaggerates. The hospital statements in your apartment don't exaggerate." Evelyn stiffened. Robert lowered his voice. "You sold the house because of my medical bills." She said nothing. "You told me insurance paid after the accident. Some of it did. How much?" "Enough." "How much?" She shook her head. Robert's voice broke. "Mum." Evelyn looked at him. He had been 26 when a delivery truck hit his car. He remembered the hospital, the broken leg, the surgery, months of therapy. He remembered his mother beside his bed. What he had not remembered were bills, because there hadn't been any. Not for him. Evelyn had made sure of that. "The hospital debt was refinanced," she said finally. "Then there were therapy bills, interest, other things. And you carried it. You were 26. You had just started your career. So? So you had a life to build. So did you." Evelyn gave him a sad smile. "I had already built mine." "And that means you were finished?" She looked away. Robert leaned forward. "You sold our house. My house. Fine. Your house. You sold it because of debt from keeping me alive, and you let me spend 6 years thinking you had destroyed your finances because you were too stubborn to ask for help. I never asked you to think that. You never told me the truth. You would have tried to pay me back. Yes, that was exactly what I didn't want." Robert stood. "Why?" People at the bus stop glanced toward them. He lowered his voice. "Why was it so important that I never do anything for you?" Evelyn stared at the shoes in her lap. For the first time, she looked old to him. Not 76. Just tired. "You know what happened when your father left?" Robert said nothing. "I begged him to stay." Her fingers tightened around the shoebox. "I begged a man who had already packed his clothes to tell me what I needed to change so he would choose us." Robert had never heard this. Evelyn continued. "After he walked out, I promised myself I would never beg anyone to choose me again." Robert slowly sat down, and suddenly, the argument 6 years earlier looked different. Not better. Different. When Robert had offered to take over her bills, Evelyn had not heard love. She had heard dependence. When he had insisted she move into his house, she had not heard safety. She had heard the beginning of becoming someone's burden. And when he accused her of needing to control every sacrifice, he had stepped directly onto the wound she had spent decades hiding. "You thought I'd resent you," he said. Evelyn gave a tiny shrug. "People change when they have to carry someone long enough." "You carried me. That was different." "Why?" "Because you were my child." Robert stared at her. Then he said, "And you're my mother." Something in Evelyn's face broke. Not dramatically. Her mouth trembled once. She turned away. Robert didn't touch her. Not yet. "You don't get to decide that loving you is a burden." She wiped beneath one eye with a finger. "And you don't get to appear after 6 years and make yourself my rescuer." "I know." That answer surprised her. Robert continued, "I don't want to rescue you." He looked across the street. "I want another chance to know you." Evelyn stared at him. "Those aren't the same thing." "I know." The bus arrived. Its brakes hissed. The doors opened. Evelyn looked at it, then at Robert. For a terrible second, Maya thought she would stand and leave. Robert seemed to think so too. He did not grab her hand, did not beg, did not block the bus. He simply said, "If you get on, I'll understand." Evelyn's eyes searched his. "But I'll call tomorrow." The bus driver waited. "And if you don't answer, I'll call the day after that." Evelyn's chin trembled. "And if you tell me to stop?" Robert swallowed. "I'll ask whether you really mean it." The bus doors remained open another second. Then two. Evelyn looked down at the shoes. Finally, she said, "I still have to deliver these." Robert exhaled. "Okay." She looked at him suspiciously. "Okay? I'll walk with you. I don't need you to carry them." "I know." Then why are you coming? Robert looked at his mother. Because you shouldn't have to have every bad day alone. Maya stopped breathing. Evelyn did too. She had never heard Maya's story about the stranger in the grocery line when Maya was 9. Robert had. That morning, lane 6. Someone refusing to let another person have a bad day alone. The bus pulled away without her. Evelyn had the surgery 11 days later. Robert did not pay for it. Not entirely. That mattered. The first thing he tried to do was take over everything. Hospital costs. Rent. Medication. Transportation. Evelyn refused so fiercely that Maya thought they might stop speaking for another 6 years before lunch. Then Clara said something neither of them expected. You two are doing it again. They both looked at her. Clara pointed at Evelyn. You believe accepting help means losing dignity. Then at Robert. And you believe giving help means taking control. Neither argued. A hospital social worker helped Evelyn apply for assistance she had previously refused. Her insurance covered more than she had believed. The community center organized transportation during recovery. Robert paid what remained only after Evelyn agreed to let him. Not as repayment. Not as rescue. As family. It was messier that way. More realistic. And perhaps healthier. Because reconciliation was not one large gesture. It was dozens of small permissions. Robert calling every morning. Evelyn sometimes answering. Sometimes not. Robert learning not to take silence personally. Evelyn learning that asking for milk on the way home did not make her weak. They argued about medication. They argued about salt. They argued about whether Robert drove too fast. Once, Evelyn hung up on him. He called the next morning anyway. Maya visited 3 days after the surgery. Evelyn was sitting upright in bed, complaining about the tea. This is hot water that once heard a rumor about tea. Maya laughed. You look better. I look trapped. That too. A small bouquet sat beside the bed. Next to it was the envelope from lane 6. The same $8. 75 cents. A dime. A nickel. And a penny. Maya picked it up. You kept this? Evelyn nodded. You wouldn't take it. I thought we agreed it was for the next person. We did. So why is it here? Evelyn looked at her. Because the next person was you. Maya frowned. Evelyn nodded toward the chair. Sit. Maya did. Your brother enjoyed his school trip. Maya smiled. He hasn't stopped talking about a robot exhibit. Good. You really shouldn't have paid. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Maya stopped. Then both women smiled. I suppose I deserved that. Yes. Maya looked at the envelope. I'll pay you back. No. Mrs. Hayes. No. Maya sighed. Evelyn leaned closer. You told me a story about your mother. Maya's smile faded. A stranger helped her once. Yes. And your mother hated accepting it. Yes. What happened afterward? Maya looked down. She helped people whenever she could. Exactly. Maya understood. Evelyn pushed the envelope toward her. Young woman, kindness is not a loan. Maya said nothing. You don't have to repay the same person. Evelyn tapped the envelope. You just don't let it stop with you. Caleb returned from his trip carrying a cheap souvenir magnet shaped like a planet. He placed it on their refrigerator. Maya pretended it was ugly. He pretended to be offended. That night, he took $65 from a jar in his bedroom, $20 from birthday money, $15 he had earned helping their neighbor move boxes. The rest saved coin by coin. He placed it on the kitchen table. What's this? Maya asked. Trip money. You're not paying it back. I know. Then what is this? Caleb shrugged. Use it for somebody else. Maya stared at him. Who told you? Mrs. Hayes. When did you talk to Mrs. Hayes? She called. Maya laughed. Of course she did. Caleb pushed the money toward her. Maybe some kid needs something. Maya looked at the jar of coins. For years, she had worried that Caleb understood too much about being broke. Maybe he had also understood something else. That having little did not mean having nothing to give. She took only $8 from the pile. Then 75 cents. A dime. A nickel. And a penny. Caleb frowned. That's weirdly specific. Maya smiled. You'll understand someday. 3 weeks later, Robert returned to work. The employees immediately noticed something different. He was still strict. Breaks were still timed. Uniforms still mattered. He still somehow noticed when someone had forgotten to rotate the milk. But there were changes. Small ones. A stool appeared behind lane 6, because Maya sometimes worked 10-hour shifts. The employee emergency fund, which had existed mostly as a line in a handbook nobody understood, suddenly became something people could actually use. Not charity, not handouts. Short-term help when life went sideways. Employees contributed only if they wanted. The store matched contributions. Robert never put his mother's name on it. Evelyn would have hated that. They called it simply the Good Day Fund. Maya thought the name was terrible. Robert refused to change it. Managers get naming rights. That's abuse of authority. File a complaint. She almost did. 2 months later, just before closing, Maya was working lane 6. A woman came through with 2 children. She looked exhausted. One child slept against the cart. The other held a box of cereal. Maya scanned the groceries. 38.20. The woman inserted her card. Declined. She tried again. Declined. Her face changed. Maya knew that face. She had seen it on her mother, on Evelyn, sometimes in the mirror. The woman began removing groceries. "Take off the cereal." The little boy said nothing. He just put it back on the belt. Then the milk. Then the apples. Maya watched. Behind her, Robert was helping a stock clerk near the registers. He noticed. Their eyes met. Months earlier, Maya would have wondered whether helping would get her in trouble. Robert gave the smallest nod. Maya opened the drawer beneath lane 6. Inside was an envelope. $8.75. A dime. A nickel. A penny. She smiled. "How short are you?" The woman shook her head. "No, it's okay. Take these off." Maya remembered the first night. Evelyn's pride. Her mother's embarrassment. Her own refusal when Denise offered help. So she didn't say, "I'll pay." She didn't say, "You need this." She didn't call it charity. She simply said, "Someone left a little money here for the next person who had a bad day." The woman looked at her. "I can't take somebody else's money." Maya smiled. "You're not taking it." She ran the small amount through. "You're just keeping it moving." The boy hugged his cereal against his chest. His mother looked down, embarrassed. "Who left it?" Maya glanced toward Robert. He was standing beside the doors now, and next to him was Evelyn. She had come to pick him up, not because he needed a ride, because they were going to dinner. It was his birthday. Evelyn carried a small box from a bakery. Lemon cake. 2 blue candles were taped to the top. She saw Maya looking. Then she looked at the woman in lane 6. Evelyn smiled. Maya turned back. Someone who once needed the same thing. The woman nodded slowly. "Tell them thank you." "I will." She took her children and walked toward the doors. The little boy waved. Evelyn waved back. After closing, Robert switched off the lights over the registers one by one. Maya grabbed her coat. Caleb was waiting outside. Before leaving, Maya stopped beside lane 6. The envelope was empty now. She smiled. Robert noticed. "You used it. Finally." "For what?" "Groceries." He nodded. "Good." Maya looked toward Evelyn. She stood near the entrance holding the lemon cake. "You two going somewhere?" Robert picked up his coat. "Dinner." Evelyn corrected him. "Apartment. My house." Robert sighed. "She has become impossible since surgery." Evelyn smiled sweetly. "I nearly died. I earned it." "You did not nearly die." "I could have. You had a scheduled procedure." Maya laughed. "Good night, you two." She headed toward the doors. "Maya." She turned. Evelyn walked toward her. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Then Evelyn held out one of the blue candles. Maya looked at it. "What am I supposed to do with this?" "Keep it." "Why?" Evelyn shrugged. "For the next birthday somebody thinks doesn't matter." Maya took it. She put the small candle carefully in her coat pocket. Then she hugged Evelyn. Not tightly. Not for long. Just enough. Outside, Caleb stood under the store lights. Maya walked toward him. He looked at her. You ready? Yeah. He started walking, then stopped. You forgot something. What? He held out his hand. Maya stared at it. When they were children, she had always held his hand crossing the parking lot. He had stopped letting her 2 years ago because he said he was too old. Tonight, he waited. Maya smiled and took it. Together, they crossed. Behind them, through the glass doors of Belmore Market, Robert opened the lemon cake box while Evelyn complained that he was holding it crooked. Nothing about their family was perfect. 6 lost years had not vanished. The house would not return. The unsent birthday cards could not become birthdays they had spent together. An apology could not rewrite everything. But sometimes reconciliation was not getting the old life back. Sometimes it was deciding not to waste the life still left. And inside lane 6, an empty envelope waited beneath the register, ready for someone to fill it again. Because years earlier, one stranger had helped a frightened mother in a grocery line. That mother had taught her daughter. The daughter helped an old woman. The old woman helped a boy she had never met. And eventually, none of them could say exactly where the kindness had begun. Only that somebody had refused to let it end. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Written Destiny for more stories about ordinary people whose lives still have another page waiting to be written.